Oh, hi there, fellow friends, and welcome to another edition of Paul's Cinema Picks of the Week. We're certainly glad that you joined us today, because guess what? We're going to be talking about the Three Stooges. Yes, I've got several of their short films I can talk about, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Stooges themselves. Stooges: Moe, Larry, Curly, Shemp, Joe Besser, Curly Joe, and I remember hearing about when the Stooges began. They began around the 1930s, 1930s, and they started under a man who was an actor, of course, named Ted Healy. Ted Healy was the one that started the characters off as Ted Healy and his Stooges, or Ted Healy and the Racketeers, because they had different names when they were on vaudeville. But yeah, Moe, Larry, and Shemp were actually the first Stooges to do the vaudeville circuit, and then when Shemp Howard left the group, he was replaced by Moe's brother Curly. And yes, Shemp and Moe and Curly were all brothers. Larry Fine, who actually was not a brother of theirs, he was a violinist that was appearing on the vaudeville circuit doing a violin act, and then with his wife. And Moe decided to have Larry come in and join the group, and then there was Moe, Larry, and Shemp, and then later Moe, Larry, and Curly, Jerome, Howard. Yes, because their real name was Howard, the brothers. And eventually they realized that Ted Healy, they'd been performing him for a while, but then they realized that he was taking a lot of the money that the Stooges were making. So what happened there is that they decided to eventually break out on their own. Which brings me to the movies now that I've got here. The Three Stooges Collection, Volume 1, 1934 to 1936. And my sister let me know if I got that there.
I got as good as I can get it.
Yeah, as good as you can get it. Okay. The Three Stooges Collection, yes. Woman Haters, 1934, which was actually their first feature film. Well, with them as the single act, the Three Stooges, without Ted Healy. And, because you get, basically there's a little bit of history here I want to read to you that's on the back of the box. It says, when the Three Stooges first signed with Columbia Pictures, their deal was for one short, which was 1934's Woman Haters. Done entirely in rhyme, it wasn't a huge success. So I remember my friend Ron told me about this one, when actually I had not even heard of it before, but he actually mentioned to me about it, the Woman Haters one. And he said it wasn't a huge success, but the Stooges hit their stride with their second short, which was Punch Drunk, and began to settle into the definitive role. Moe, of course, being the leader or the boss. Larry as the middleman, and Curly as the comedic foil. He was the one that took usually most of the brunt of the hits by Moe, although Larry would have his share of hits as well. And Punch Drunk, like I said, was the second one. Men in Black. Men in Black, and no, we're not talking about Will Smith or Tommy Jones. We're actually talking about a comedy short with the Stooges did, Three Little Pigskins. Yeah, so this one here it has 2 discs, and what it is, it explains it's the 19 digitally remastered shorts presented in their original release order. Now, my friend Dave was mentioning about some of the Stooges shorts that they'd actually been colorized. So there are some sets out there that you can actually see them in the original black and white, or you can actually see them colorized. And I know a lot of purists get a little iffy about the colorization. They're like, oh, that ruins the whole effect of the original movie. No, I disagree. I think a lot of movies, actually, in one sense, the way they're done, if they're done right, they can look really good in color. Like Charlie Chaplin, when they did some of the Chaplin shorts, or the Little Rascals ones that I got at home, some of them are also colorized. So if you enjoy the act and enjoy the actors, that's the important thing. And the Three Stooges, I think you can enjoy them whether it's color or black and white. And the second one here, The Three Stooges, it's Volume 2. It's from the period of 1937 to 1939. And you have Gripes, Grunts, and Groans, Dizzy Doctors, Three Dumb Clucks, Back to the Woods, Goofs and Saddles, Cash and Carry, Playing the Phonies, or Ponies, I guess what it says, and The Sitter Downers. And it covers, like I said, it covers the period of 1937 to 1939. You get to see 24 more shorts that they did. And I always liked the ones with Curly, because I thought, even though Shemp was the original Stooge, and then when he came back, when Curly suffered a stroke, and it was Halfwit's Holiday, I think that was the name of the one that he had the stroke on, and they had to replace him with Shemp. I remember seeing that in the Stooge movie, and it was really sad. But yeah, Curly is probably your most famous one of the Three Stooges, because he's the one that everybody likes to emulate, and there's the and all that. So he gets a lot of the very funny business, and of course Moe, he gets to do all the slapping, and poor Larry, he's the guy, as the middleman, he's the one that's the brunt of most of the smacks and stuff. But yeah, that's what made the Stooges as popular as they were, and that's why a lot of people still love them today. They're universally loved all over the world, and certainly I remember seeing them when I was a kid. We used to watch them on TV, and then when I started getting physical media like DVDs and videos, I would collect a lot of the Stooge short films. And my friend Ron, actually, I have to give him credit, he does actually have the entire set of the Stooge movies. He's got like the shorts, and he's got the feature films and the cartoons, which they did in the 60s, and I'll get to that in a little bit too. Disc 3 here, Volume 3, covers the period of 1940 of 1942. Again, you have Moe, Larry, and Curly in it again, and basically here you have, in 1940, Moe made his what he considered to be his favorite short. It was called You Nazi Spy. And around the time Charlie Chaplin was doing the Hitler impersonation for Great Dictator, and he played a character named Adenoid Hinkle, Moe actually gets to play a Hitler-like character himself. And here it actually says that he was the first American to portray Hitler on film. So I can imagine what Adolf actually thought of that time, being with the war going on, and he didn't like a lot of the comedic characters. I guess because I remember when Charlie Chaplin did it, I guess Hitler was really peeved off about it. And so when Moe did it, well, I can imagine also the same thing. It also says here in this collection, you have Curly's favorite, which was A Plumbing We Will Go. It says it features the brilliant sight gag of a burst of water flowing from a new television set that is broadcast live from Niagara Falls. Yeah, so you got that there, and you got another group of 23 shorts, to be exact, from 1940 to 1942, encompassing the entire period there. And some of the famous ones are Beautiful But Dumb. You got No Senses, No Feeling, Cuckoo Cavaliers, which is hilarious. I'll Never Heil Again, which was a sequel to You Nazi Spy. And that was, again, Moe playing the dictatorial character that he played in You Nazi Spy, the Hitler character. And you have Cactus Makes Perfect, Local Boy Makes Good, Natural Phony, I had that on another set, Three Smart Saps, and Sockabye Baby. Like a lot of the Stooge movies that you would get if you got them in stores, like on VHS when the Stooges first came out, you would always get the Mouse in the Palace, Sing a Song of Sixpence, Disorder in the Court, and The Brideless Groom. And every set you would have those four shorts on it, and that's more or less about it. Or you could get the cartoons. Like I said, in the 60s they made cartoons. on the Three Stooges as well. And like I said, eventually Curly passed away. I think it was around 51. And what happened is he suffered a stroke on the Half-Wits holiday, I think it was, and he had to go to the hospital, and then he was replaced by Brother Shemp Howard. And Shemp would continue the Stooges. And I believe it was 57 that, or 50 something. Ron would probably know it a little more than I would, to be honest. But yeah, Shemp died in the car with a group of friends. They were, I think, driving to a show or something, and Shemp actually was telling a joke. He was just telling a joke, and he had a lit cigarette in his hand, and he just slumped over. And then one of the other friends smelled burning, so it was like, oh, Shemp had not put out his cigarette, so he just died right there in the car. He was then replaced by comedian Joe Besser. Joe Besser was a contract player, actor, comedian who worked at the Columbia Studios too. And Besser wasn't exactly my favorite of the Stooges because he had this clause in his contract which said that he wasn't to be slapped by any of the Stooges. And he put it into his contract, so Moe kind of felt perplexed. He says, wow, we got two Stooges and we got a holdout here because he didn't like to be slapped. He always had that famous, not so hard, or that was one of his catchphrases, but I wasn't really into Joe Besser as much as I was, like Curly was always my favorite of the ones to go with Stooges and stuff, although I liked Shemp too. Shemp had a bit of his funny humor. Shemp had actually done contract work at Columbia Pictures and some other movies as well, and then around that time Moe called him when Curly went to the hospital with the stroke. Moe called him and said, well, we need you back to be part of the Stooges again. So Shemp came back. They did their short films, and then Joe Besser went till about 57, 58, and then Besser left the group because his wife was ill. And around that time, the Columbia shorts were actually discontinued. So Moe was more or less stuck being around the studio, but there was no work for him to do except maybe get coffee for Harry Cohn and all the producers and stuff. And then eventually the shorts started getting very popular again because they were in syndication. Around that time they did the TV run, and then the shorts got very popular again. So then they got Joe DeRita, who I believe he was Canadian. Joe DeRita, I think he was Canadian, and he joined the group, and he became Curly Joe DeRita, sort of an homage to Curly. And that brings me to the movies. That's when Joe DeRita actually joined it with Stooges. You had the Three Stooges go around the world in a day. You have Rockin' in the Rockies, Time Out for Rhythm, Have Rocket Will Travel, Three Stooges beat Hercules, and The Outlaws is Coming. The Outlaws is Coming. That's the one that starred Adam West. He was in there as well. Adam West from Batman. He actually played the part of a news reporter. He worked with the Stooges. They had to go out to the Old West, and they run afoul of all the bad guys out there, and they bring in Wild Bill Hickok. They bring in some of the bad men of the Old West characters that come in, and Adam West's character has to have the help of Annie Oakley to help him because he can't really shoot properly. So they have Annie Oakley do all the shooting there. Yeah, by the way, this is the dog here. Say hi, Dougie. Yep. Say hi to the camera.
Yeah, Dobby's the official mascot of the show.
Our mascot, so yeah, we have her here. But anyway, getting back to the Stooges, yeah. Joe DeRita did a lot of the movies and stuff, and then he later did the cartoons. And because they did cartoons, as the Stooges became popular, they were more like for kids. It was sort of like a kids thing. So they got really popular with children, so they decided, well, let's do a cartoon show. They did a cartoon show on the Stooges. And there were two other Stooge shows that I got at home called the Jerk of All Trades. I think that's the one they did. It was on a stage show. There was a stage that they did. And then the Kooks Tour, which was officially the final Stooge film. And I picked them up from Ron. And, around that time, I guess they were doing the cartoons. And amazing that the Stooges actually went from 1927, it says, to 1970. So the amazing thing is when they were doing live tours, you had the 60s. Chaplin had stopped doing slapstick comedy. Laura and Hardy were pretty well done. Abbott and Costello were done. And here you had the Three Stooges still doing the slapstick comedies in the 1960s. So what's important is that they were able to outlast all the major comedians of the time and become major legends just based on that fact that they actually kept it going, and it made them truly iconic by nature. So yeah, you had the Stooges, and then in 1970, Larry suffered a stroke, I believe, and he wasn't able to. They weren't able to continue. They were going to try and continue the act with, I guess the guy's name was Siska, Len Siska, or whatnot. But anyway, they were going to try and continue the act with Mr. Siska, and then it just to replace Larry, because Larry had been sick with stroke and everything, and then they were going to continue, but unfortunately, in 1975, Mo had died 75, I think it was, 74, 75, and as a result of Mo not being there anymore, and then Larry dying, so the Stooges were done. And Joe DeRita went into a happy retirement and lived till about 1990, I believe it was, 1990, and then he passed away. So it was they were an enduring legacy. To this day, they still have the videos, which brings me to my final one here. You have the Three Stooges in History. It's more Columbia shorts with Mo, Larry, and Curly, of course, in historical situations. And you got Squareheads of the Round Table. You got Idle Monkey's Uncle, Restless Knights, Matrafoni, and Fiddler's 3. So you get a historical perspective from the Three Stooges. And yes, Chaplin was my favorite. Laura and Hardy was my favorite comedy team. But I always had something special in heart for the Three Stooges because they were the ones that we saw the most.
And Grandma liked them.
What?
Grandma liked Three Stooges.
Yeah, my grandmother, she liked the Three Stooges too. She used to watch them regularly as well. God bless her. And so that was our little bit of our look at the Three Stooges. So this is Paul reminding you to like and subscribe to the channel. Remember to leave a comment below, and please join us at our live show. And yes, my sister was mentioning about polls. We want to remember that to keep these shows interesting and happy, we put these polls up so that we can find out what you want us to talk about or see. And it's important to actually answer the polls so that way we'll be able to know and then go from there.
The polls are on Facebook. We have a Facebook group that I personally made.
Yep.
It's spelled differently, but it's
called Cinemax page, but it's CinemaPit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go to the polls. Be sure to join us at our live thing, because as soon as I'm done here, I'm taking a bitter break and then get ready for a live show, which we like to talk about anything. It's all open. We talk about the movies on the main thing here, and then if we bring up movies, of course we'll discuss them. But other than that, we also like to discuss other stuff too. So, this is Paul Westbrook, your host, and Barefoot Film Enthusiast, thanking you and reminding you that I'll be seeing you at the movies.